Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I am here as part of a big celebration hop for my friend Tara. She has hit her 1,000 subscriber mark and she is celebrating with a big hop, and I'm happy to join her in this. She has issued us a recipe challenge, which includes all of these items on the list. We'll talk about those as we go, as well as this mood board. So let's go ahead and dive into this project. I have pulled out a whole bunch of supplies that I think will work with this photo and that also match the list of supplies that we are supposed to use. Only I forgot one item. I forgot the buttons, and it wasn't until editing this video that I realized I missed them. So you will see a final photo at the very end that has the buttons added. And until then, we'll work with the products that I thought we should be working with, which includes flowers. The mood board included stripes of color, which I'm going to do with my distress inking. There was a film strip on the mood board, so I pulled out some of my 49 and Market film strips. And then I think there were some butterflies on the mood board. The other thing we're supposed to use is some stitching, which I'm going to do an interesting faux hand stitching technique. And let's see, a few other things on the mood board that I can't remember at the moment, but we'll do those as we go. All right, I showed you the distress ink colors I was going to be using, and then I decided to pull in one more color as a in-between orange and blue to kind of blend in better. Now, the mood board totally inspired me to make swaths of color. Oh, favorite color was one of the items on our recipe challenge, which is in the teal families, and I also love navy. So that's why I have this color palette. Also, orange is kind of a complementary color to the blues and teals, and it was part of the mood board and part of Tara's graphic, and so I definitely wanted to incorporate some of the orange, and that works perfectly with these teals and blues. Now, when you are blending an orange with a teal, you got to be a little careful because orange is combined red and yellow, and the teals are in the blue family, which is red, yellow, and blue are all the three primary colors, and if you mix three primary colors, you often end up with something brownish gray. So I double checked on the back of my cardstock to see what these two particular distress ink oxide inks would look like once they were blended. And yes, it's a little greeny gray, but I'm okay with that. I am using the Vicky Bouton foundations paper, and I tell you, oh, this is my new kitten. His name is Xander, and this is the first time he's joined me for filming, so that was kind of fun. At any rate, I thought I was a better ink blender than how this picture turned out. I'm not too worried about it yet because this is just a foundation of color, and I'm going to be adding a lot of stuff over the top of this, but I thought I was a good blender until I started looking at this, and I realized I was having some issues with getting those smooth blends, despite feeling like I'm using all of the right products. At any rate, like I said, we'll cover this up with a bunch of things, including we're going to do some ink lifting with the reactive properties of the oxide ink. So I put some big splatters and some little splatters on there, and I will use a rag to lift all of that ink. And of course, it lifts the darker inks more distinctly than it lifts the other colors. Now, I thought my photo would cover up most of the bottom edge of this, but I realized it's not going to quite do that job, so I went ahead and added some extra ink down there. When I start adding things in, you won't notice it as much, but I wanted to make it inky just in case. And then I added a little bit of darker ink around the edges to kind of give it a little finishing touch to the whole project. I'm continuing on with this inky theme to create a photo mat for my photo, and this was taken at an event over the summer. I went to a crop on the East Coast with my Scrap Happy membership group, and we went to a selfie museum as part of this. So there were a whole bunch of fun scenes set up that we could go play in. So this layout is all about selfies. But before I talk about that too much, I want to show you this faux stitching technique. And this is something that I just came up with. I wanted to have circles to match the bubbles in this bathtub. And I thought, well, let's zigzag stitch these quote unquote with a pin, because one, my sewing machine is set up for doing costuming right now, and I don't want to change the needle to a paper needle. And two, hand stitching was going to take way too long because I've got a lot on my plate, including all of that costuming I mentioned. So this ended up being a much faster process, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I added little threads to the end of it, and I'm just thrilled with myself because I really like this, and hopefully you can catch a little bit better glimpse of it when we get to the close-up. All right, I am doing more stamping on top of this, and I am using the Lost Shadow color of Distress ink because it's going to be very subtle. In fact, I have to ink up a couple of times with this ink in order for it to show up. It's going to show up better on the navy color than it will on the lighter colors, but as you can see here, it gives a really nice subtlety in the background, and that's when I mentioned adding all of these layers onto that inky layer is going to make everything look good in the end. All right, I do want to do some full color ink stamping as well, and I'm using flowers for kind of all of this stuff right now. I think I did add some butterflies to the background. Yeah, I do see a few of those Lost Shadow butterflies there. So you'll see some more of those details in the close-up. I'm just trying to go over the basics of this layout. Here are my film strips. At first I think I was going to use that film strip for holding my title, and I changed my mind pretty quickly. As I was adding film strips around my photo, I realized that I should cut them apart because those film strips, you know, they're not a cheap embellishment. So if I'm going to, pardon the cat, that's the one who is up on my table making noise. If I'm going to use these embellishments, there's no reason to cover up a chunk of it underneath the photo. So I will just cut these apart and stretch my resources even farther. All right, this is where I'm thinking about putting my title on that film strip up there, and I just don't like it. I don't like the angle compared to everything else, especially when the ink is kind of leading in the opposite direction down into the photo and everything. So I'm just going to use that leading line as the landing space for my title as well. And it just so happens that I can land it right up next to one of these bubbles and use one of those bubbles as a second part to my title, which altogether says selfie time. So that was a happy accident that it worked out that way. I am going to spruce up the title a little bit more with some more of this full tone stamping so that I can draw a little bit more attention to that title, especially since it's at an unpredictable angle here, which I find very fun. I've done a few layouts over the years that have had some unpredictable titles like this, and I like it. So there we go. That is a little bit of close-up to some of the details that we have going on, including some of that stitching and some of the stamping, and there is me having fun at the Selfie Museum. All right, so that was the basis to this layout. I do go off camera and add just a little bit of journaling around the edge of my photo, and you'll see the close-up of how I incorporated the buttons after this. So that is it for this, and I want to congratulate Tara for making her 1,000 subscriber mark. It's a big one on YouTube. When you finally get there, it feels good. And I hope you will go check out all the other creatives here on the Hop and give them some love as well. And I will be back soon with some more crafty videos. Like I said, I've got a lot on my plate right now, so I'm not sure when. But until then, I hope you have an artful day.